And where is Sally today?
Sally's now back home. She's walking on double prostheses that she received at Shriners Hospital. She's back in school. She'd refused to go to school afterwards because she's a very proud little girl, and I think that the fact that this had been done to her and that there was no recourse for her, she was just going to have to slide around on her hands for the rest of her life, it looked like to her. It was very tough on her. Now, Shriners Hospital in Greenville has agreed to provide her with new prosthetics every year, so she'll be coming back every 12 to 18 months, depending on how she grows, until she's 18 years old. That means that the city of Greenville, a very, very red area, is going to grow up with this little girl and see the long-term consequences of what happened to her. And also, we just got confirmation a couple of days ago that Shriners Hospital is also going to provide treatment for Sally's little sister, Russell. She was with them when this occurred. She was really terribly injured. One of her legs is going to have to be amputated. So the amputation will take place in South Carolina, and she'll receive a prosthetic there.
You know, I think our troops are beginning to realize how serious all of this is, how many children have been terribly wounded and killed. And we received reports this week of a mutiny in Iraq, of troops refusing orders, saying that they feel that what they're doing is counterproductive. This happened in Vietnam, and it was one of the reasons that the war ended. And I think as people understand what's going on in Iraq, that war will end, because wars are based on lies. Wars are never based on truth-telling. You demonize a wonderful people and make them into devils, and then you kill them. And this game has got to stop.
I agree. I agree. And I think there was a report recently that there were 935 false statements by senior administration officials leading up to this. And of course, that was in the media echo chamber. Those lies were promulgated throughout the United States. And so people really didn't know what was going on. And that's one of the strategies here. Now, we've had a lot of coverage in the mainstream media. I believe that there's going to be more. We want to permit communities to help these kids and tell the kids' stories. I mean, the principle is very, very simple. If you object, help someone and tell their story.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as you can get. And so, like I said, now we have projects that are developing all over the country, and I think part of the reason that there's so much energy and enthusiasm in different communities around these projects is that there's a real fatigue. I think that people have this kind of misplaced notion that their efforts don't have any effect at all. And I would certainly urge people to continue to do those useful things, just the core organizing that seems at times dull and tedious and not productive. It's very important that we keep doing all of that. This provides an additional way of working, because the participants get to see the effect of their efforts. They get the gratification of seeing a child who's been injured by our forces get well, and they get to see that, or at least get better, and they get to see that in the fairly immediate term. Over the long term, as more and more projects are developed in more and more communities, you have a long-term educational effect. And what I'm hoping is that we can just build this public consensus that the use of force in international affairs is simply impermissible.
Well, the telling of stories is critically important, not only for the children, not only for the people who live there, but for our troops. This month, or the month of March, we're going to have the Winter Soldier Gathering in Washington, D.C., and the veterans are invited to tell their story. They're not invited to say, tell your story against the war, tell your story for the war, tell your story. What did you see? Why did you go there? And some of them have already started telling their story, and some have seen the contradictions. One of the fellows who came back was asked, why did you go? And he said, because Iraq attacked us. He'd been there, you know, years, and he thought we had been attacked by Iraq. I mean, the level of...
It's a real testament to how well the propaganda in this country works.
Propaganda machine. Iraq did not attack us, you know. And here are people risking their lives in the name of their country for a lie.
Well, I agree with you absolutely that telling the stories is important, and then the outcomes are really so wonderful for people to participate in. Abdul Hakim is now back in Pittsburgh receiving care at Children's Hospital.
Wonderful.
They believe now that they're going to be able to get rid of at least 50% more of his facial scarring. The story with him, he went back home after he was hurt in the siege of Fallujah, and he lost an eye, had terrible burning on one side of his face, a crushed temporomandibular joint. He refused to go to school because everybody teased him, because he had a kind of a monstrous appearance. He came to the United States, people in Pittsburgh, the whole community rallied around to help him, and when he went back home with the prosthetic eye and with the jaw rebuilt, he went back to school, nobody teased him, he's now the top student in his class getting straight 10s, the Iraqi equivalent of A's. And so that kind of thing can happen. And now I have another video that I'd like to show, which is about Sally Alawi and her travel to South Carolina. And it shows the folks in South Carolina and the kind of joy that people can experience when they're participating in something to help a child that we've hurt, as an expression not of charity but of responsibility. And I'd like for people to see that. And
well,
see
I'd
how
like to
thrilling
see
it
it
is.
too,
Yeah.
because it tells us we are human beings, we are not devils. And that's what
Yeah,
I'd
and
like
one
to
other
see.
thing to keep in mind, so watch the media, particularly the media here when we brought Sally to Southern California, and I know that you got a chance to meet her.
Yes.
To see how you can penetrate the mainstream corporate media. We have allies there. There are lots of people who would like to tell these stories. Let's help them to do it.
You've done it, and keep doing it, brother. So this is another clip right here, where this is the